Okay, this is the great and glorious, soon to be famous one day, Nick Dutch, back on the camera again one more time. This is Friday night. I've been logged on since 8:40 in the morning. This is, I guess we're approaching, well, it's after 11 p.m., probably approaching midnight by the time that you're watching this. I will be logged on until probably about midnight. So essentially this is like a kind of like a working day of a long period of time, if you get my drift. This is Friday, okay? Any moment now, the pubs are going to empty. Then I'm going to have to take some calls from people who are basically going, I'm not drunk. I mean, seriously, that's the way it is. You can tell when someone's really, really drunk by how insistent they are on their quality of sobriety. This is, I mean, I have to end, I really feel I have to end calls with people who are just like too drunk when, when they're calling out for their tarot readings, because they're not going to get any benefit from it. They're going to like, put up a massive bill, and it's not going to do them any good. So basically, no, I'm not going to allow that to happen. Because there was one time, must have been about 4 years ago, and there was this lady who just repeated herself time and time and time and time and time again. And I could hear the sound of like the ice clinking in the glass as she was swigging it back. And there's a certain, quality of sound that an alcoholic drink makes when someone's drinking it, as opposed to tea or coffee or, something like that. So I can tell that she had a bottle there, she had a glass there, she had the ice in it, and she was while she was on the phone with me. And so I had to tell her, I don't think that I can carry on with this call. I think you've been having too much to drink. And yes, that was a St. Patrick's. And she was this very celebratory Irish lady who was enjoying, completely. And so I said, I can't carry on with this call. You've been drinking far too much. And then she told me in great detail the characteristics of her drinking too much. I mean, she'll be throwing things and screaming and ranting and raving. And she said, oh dear, this just reminds me of like when I was younger, because I used to think that, we've all done that, when you're in your like teens, you're in your 20s, so your late teens in your 20s, okay? You want to be like the party animal, you want to go around town with a swagger and like getting all the drinks inside you, lodging it every Saturday night, you know what I mean? Because that's the kind of person I thought I was when I was young. Of course I wasn't, it doesn't fit my character, I'm far too reserved for that, basically. But I was hanging out with this guy at the time, and like we would just like hit the pubs, extend the overdraft by £100, quick calls to the bank manager, and then take the money and basically, go out and we'd go out and do shots, and then we'd do beers, and then we'd like go down to a pool hall or something crazy like that, or go onto a nightclub. And my friend would always say to me, Nick, act sober. And if you don't want to be thrown out of a pub or a nightclub or like a pool hall, the last thing you want is for the bouncers to hear you when you're saying to your friend, act sober. It doesn't work well. You've already got to be, sober, and not like in this like little friendly bubble of alcoholic aroma, as you're floating your way down the hallway. It doesn't quite work. Get it into perspective, okay? You come over as sober if you are sober, not when you've got like red rings around your eyes and you're sort of like, yeah, I'm alright, I'm not drunk. There's something magical about alcohol, isn't there? There's something really, really magical. I mean, you can see, like, if you're totally sober, haven't had a drink for a couple of weeks or whatever it is, right, and you see a pint of strong beer sitting on the table and it's been given to you and someone says you can drink that. You know intellectually that you will drink it, you will feel the effect, you will be under the influence of it, and you'll be slightly concussed at least by the time you've finished it. The moment you've had two of them, okay, the moment you've had two, something really magical will happen inside your brain. That you think that you can convince the whole world that you are sober. That's what happens. Okay, alcohol will make you convince yourself that you're sober, and that you have the power to convince everybody in the world that you're sober. Okay? The fact that you look like shit, you smell like a dog, Alright, you can't even string a sentence together. You're using the word more than you should be in any kind of company, let alone polite company. No, that doesn't come into the equation at all, because your head has worked it out perfectly. And any moment now, I'm going to get calls from people who are convinced of another magical power. That if they can convince me, the person on the other end of the phone, who they will probably never meet socially, ever, in their entire life, and is of no consequence to their friends or their family or their employer, right? If they can convince me that they are sober, then they won't have a problem ever in their entire life. And I am going to have to find some polite way of explaining to them that they could be just a little bit mistaken or misguided.